News breaking out. Biden's new nuclear bomb compared to bombs dropped on Nagasaki. Right now, the Biden administration is planning on ramping up its nuclear weapon development against Moscow. A creation of a new U.S. bomb, a variation of the B-61 gravity bomb developed in the 1960s. They're saying that they are creating another version of that. And this was created during the Cold War, and this was announced last week that they want to develop a new version of the nuclear bomb right now. The news just released by the Pentagon said that the B-6113 is intended to strengthen the deterrence of adversaries. While we're dealing with Russia as well as Hamas, we are also dealing with other adversaries, and so they're trying to make sure that they create this bomb to assure deterrence of our adversaries and assurance of our allies. So they're letting us know by providing President Biden with additional options against certain harder and larger area military targets. What is the largest, harder military target that they're talking about? Russia. That is the hardest one that we know about, and it's the largest one that we know about. And they plan on doing something about, since Russia has already announced the most powerful nuclear weapon. The United States is being on top of that, and we are starting to create a 300 kiloton bomb, which is 24 times more powerful than the explosive power of the 15 kiloton bomb that the U.S. dropped on Hiroshima, Japan in World War II. And this is why we're talking about the development of World War III is taking place even as we speak. It shows that the B-6113 bomb exploding over Moscow would cause a significant devastation and delete more than 300,000 people. Now, I know this is not what many of us want to hear. We are the brink of, they are discussing nuclear bombs in many areas, including Russia, Israel, Iran, and the United States, as well as warning us about attacks on U.S. soil. And there are groups right now that are making plans to do that. We're going to talk about that in this video as well. How are they able to do what they do in the United States? And so the question remains, is your city safe?
Multiple foreign terrorist organizations have called for attacks against Americans and the West.
To all of you who are wondering why we should care about Hamas and what's happening in the Middle East, you should care because Hamas has a large network of cells spreading all across America. According to intelligence, they have cells in Boston, Maryland, New York, Laurel, Maryland, Potomac, Maryland, Washington, D.C., Henderson, Virginia, Springfield, Virginia, Raleigh, North Carolina, Boca Raton and Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Philadelphia, Cleveland, Ohio, Charlotte, North Carolina, Orlando and Tampa, Florida, Detroit, Michigan, Houston, Columbia, Missouri, Plainfield, Illinois, Kansas City, Chicago, Denver, Oklahoma City, Arlington, Texas, and Dallas, Texas, Tucson, Arizona, Seattle, Washington, San Francisco, Santa Clara, Los Angeles, and San Diego in California. Wake up, America.
And she's absolutely correct, because Hezbollah already has sleeper cells in the United States. These cells are the the external security organization called Unit 910. It is a highly compartmented unit that is primarily responsible for overseas terrorism operations, including against the West. Their sleeper cells are all over the United States in those cities in which she just mentioned could be under attack with some of their operatives. How big is this organization? They have approximately 40,000 fighters. It didn't say members. 40,000 fighters that may have already set themselves up in the United States in many of these cities in which they are discussing. We're going to watch a video on a person that was actually a part of this organization.
Questioning by FBI agents, New Yorker Ali Karani admitted in 2017 to being a member of something called Unit 910. It's the Black Ops unit of Hezbollah.
Now remember, as we were saying, that in Hezbollah, they have this organization and they focus, Unit 910 only focuses on international terrorism, invading a country, creating these units, pretending that they're part of the society, and then when it's time for them to go on the attack, they take their orders and they do what they need to do in order to cause havoc. And this is what Hamas has been doing in the United States. They have been making plans. They're coming across our borders along with other immigrants to be able to invade U.S. citizens, to invade U.S. countries. And as you can tell, this gentleman has been here since 2017.
Karani told agents he was trained to be a suicide bomber and was scouting targets in New York City. He's now in prison. Another Unit 910 member in prison.
Let's look at this. New Jersey man sentenced to 12 years in prison for receiving military-type training from Hezbollah. Married fraud, making false statements, pretending that he was a U.S. citizen, and at the same time, he was taking training from Hezbollah from overseas.
New Jersey resident Alexei alias Alex Saab had also scouted potential targets around New York City. While the exact number of Hamas and Hezbollah sleeper cells operating within the United States is not known, a comprehensive study by George Washington University last year found the most Hezbollah activity in Michigan, New York, North Carolina, and California.
Now notice this. We're going to stop right there for a second. These areas that they're speaking with the largest amount of activity with Hezbollah and this Unit 910 is because they have the largest population. Being from Michigan, I know exactly what they mean. Most people don't know that if you do not live in the Middle East, Iran, Iraq, somewhere in Saudi Arabia, you 9 times out of 10 live in Michigan. We have a huge population of Middle Easterners that I grew up with. So I do realize that there's a huge population. That's why Michigan is the greenest. Even during the time period of, sadly, the 9/11 attacks, 5 of the individuals in which they captured were in the state of Michigan in sleeper cells during that time period. So when they say that there are certain states that stand out more than other states, this is absolutely true. And I actually grew up in a city, Detroit, that has a huge Middle Eastern population. Not saying that all people from the Middle East are causing trouble. Most people from the Middle East are great people, just like any other people that come from around the world. But there are sleeper cells in many of the cities that we don't expect.
If Americans are wondering if they're safe from the kind of attack Hamas carried out against Israel, terrorism experts say the answer is not encouraging. Former FBI Special Agent Eric Karen.
We have over 1,000 joint terrorism task force cases going on here in America today relating to Muslim extremists.
So far.
Now, I don't want you to let that slide by. We have over 1,000 cases that they're dealing with long before October 7th, long before what happened in Israel, Gaza Strip, long before what happened in Ukraine, long before with Japan and Taiwan. We've been dealing with people that have been extremists on our own U.S. soil, and they have been warning us about it. And yet we have been so focused on inflation and taking care of our loved ones, we just didn't take time out to realize how serious this actually is.
Far this year, authorities have caught 151 people on the FBI's terrorism watch list, trying to illegally enter the U.S. through the southern border.
Let's go back with that. Let's go back and look at that one more time. These individuals that they have on the U.S. most wanted list, these individuals should not be entering the United States. And how did they catch them? Coming through the southern borders with all of the other immigrants. That's how large our open borders are, that where just about anybody can walk in to the United States at this point in time. We need to do something about it.
Trying to illegally enter the U.S. through the southern border. That's 50 times higher than 2 years ago. Most are coming through Panama's Darien Gap, where journalist Michael Yan says he's seeing 3,000 to 5,000 migrants pass through every day on their way to the U.S.
I see a lot of Chinese coming through. Most of the people you see coming through are military-age males of any sort, right? I see Afghan.
Don't let that go past you. He said most people that are coming into the U.S. border are of military age in most countries. That means that anybody of military age could be sneaking into the United States to bring harm to U.S. citizens on our own soil.
It's coming in by the thousands. I've had people come through that say they're from Gaza.
CBN News correspondent Chuck Holton has also reported from the Darien Gap and says he has no doubt dangerous persons are headed for the U.S. border.
I interviewed a guy from Afghanistan. We found many people from Somalia and Yemen. We found people from Syria, Iran. We have seen people coming through.
Now, before they go any further, living here in Colombia right now, I can validate that in South America, there has always been a huge Middle Eastern population, whether it be from the locations in which he just subscribed to or suggested, also to individuals that's coming from Libya. For example, you have this famous singer Shakira. She's half Lebanese and half Colombian. And so you find a huge population here in Colombia, as well as in other areas such as Brazil has a large population from the Middle East, as well as Argentina has a large population from Europe and the Middle East.
And is especially concerned about America's ports, where Customs and Border Protection is supposed to scan every incoming container for radiation, but physically inspects only 3%.
We have 328 ports of entry into.
I don't want that to slide by either. We have over 350 ways a person can come across the borders into the United States other than just an airplane. And yet and still, we only inspect of those items coming into the United States 3%.
To America. They all have to be secure, and many of them are soft.
Former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy warned this week that what happened in Israel could happen here. McCarthy said, "We should wake up ourselves. We could have the same thing happen next week to us. Our intel is never perfect, and we've got a wide open border."
The idea that they don't want to attack us again like a 9/11, but even bigger, is foolish. They want to attack us. They want to destroy America.
So we're going to keep you posted, updated. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can get daily news on what's taking place when it comes to America and the development of World War III.